Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed, author of the Dating Toolbox, available on Amazon.com. All right, so today I want to talk about the fact that you cannot get good relationship advice from women. At least men can't. I don't know, maybe women can, but men can't. And the primary reason for that is what women say and what they mean, as far as we as men interpret, are two totally separate things. Okay, so put another way, what a woman says is often completely different than what you think she means. And this is one of the reasons why you can't get good relationship advice from women, and also illustrates how we need to interpret women. Remember, the female brain is fundamentally different from the male brain. It's process-oriented. The male brain is problem solution oriented. So men will go through the process in their head, and when they finally get to say a question, they'll ask that question. Whereas women, that whole process, they'll be talking and going through that process through conversation. So they don't talk when they reach a conclusion, they talk through the process, and then that process then produces a conclusion. Okay, so to illustrate this point today, I want to talk about this one female relationship advisor argued that 95% of women want you to approach. This is a direct quote. And this woman appeared on this other guy's, I can't remember his name. It was his channel talking about relationship issues, and he was Asian. I don't like to often talk about things in terms of race. Obviously I don't want to sound racist, or that I think, being white or Asian or black or Hispanic affects your prospects with women. But this guy did. So this was an Asian guy, and he was of the opinion that this woman was wrong because in his experience, and he was a relationship coach, and he made a lot of sense. He's been around for a few years. So he's approached a woman or two, and he argues that really only about 30% of women want you to approach. And this is consistent with some of my theories. I have a video out where I argue that you need a minimum level of attraction with a woman to no matter what you do, if you don't pass that minimum basic level of attraction, you're not going to really get anywhere with a woman. So no matter how good your game is, no matter how good your conversation is, if you don't meet that minimum level, you're just not going to have success. For example, if you're an average looking guy, you probably are not going to have a shot at the very, very top echelon of women, the 9s and 10s. If you're a 5 or a 6, you're probably, no matter how good your game is, you probably are not going to get the most beautiful women. However, you can date up. If your game is good, if your conversation is good, if your lines are good, again, we talk about rehearsed versus canned lines, you can definitely date up. So if you're a 6, if you're an average looking guy, you absolutely can get women who would be classified as an 8, as very good looking. They're not 10s, but they're still very attractive. So again, guys, learning how to talk to women, how to have conversations, how to manage relationships is extremely important. Conversely, you can be an extremely good-looking guy. You can be a 9, you can be a Chad, 6'2" tall, very good-looking, wealthy. If you don't know how to manage relationships, you will fail. So again, guys, there is hope. Don't think that just because you're not extremely good looking that you aren't going to have success. My point here is that you have to have realistic expectations. I'm going to give an example of myself out the other night at the nightclub to illustrate this point. So there is hope. If you're an average looking guy, there are a lot of things you can do to get above average looking women. And most importantly, to get women that are flexible givers, that will add value to your life, that will make great partners, great relationships. My goal when I developed my system was to get married. I know not everyone has that goal, but I think that everyone would like to have high quality women in their life. and you absolutely can achieve that goal, even if you're average looking. But again, you have to be realistic. So going back to this guy, again, I apologize for calling him the Asian guy. It makes me sound like a racist. My son is 38% Asian. We'll talk about him in a moment. But this guy, he was Asian, and the problem this guy had, if I were coaching him, he's a relationship coach, but I would give him, the advice I would give him is, hey guy, get to the gym. He was a shorter guy. He was very slim. He had tiny arms. He had no muscle. He had not worked hard to develop his body. So the first thing I would tell him is, you need to get to the gym. You need to start lifting weights. You need to start eating the right food at the right time. For example, my son, who is 17 and is extremely successful with women, too successful. I had him read my book twice when he was 15. Now he has a new woman over every week. He's 17, but he complains. He goes, oh, I wish I were white. I wish I were Caucasian. I would have more luck with women. And I explained, no, that's completely ridiculous. The key here is the only reason why you might be at a disadvantage because you're Asian, because generally Asian guys are smaller, less muscular. It's not because you're Asian or not because, you have darker skin and different features. So for example, my son is almost 6 foot tall. He's 200 pounds. He's brutally strong in the weight room. He's the captain of his wrestling team. He has a very masculine aura to him. And that's what it's really about. It's about that much more than it is race. So again, guys, you can change your status. If you work hard, get to the gym, and we develop confidence, and you meet that minimum level of attraction, you still can have success. So I'm not going to get too into that today. I have other videos on the role of bodybuilding and martial arts in improving yourself as a man. But I want to talk about a situation that happened to me the other night that illustrates this point, that 95% of women do not want you to approach. So when a woman says that 95% of the time we don't want you to approach, what they really mean is they only want that top 10% to approach. So when a woman says, oh yeah, 19 out of 20 women want men to approach, they're only talking about the very best looking men. They're only talking about the Chads, the Tyrones, the guys that are over 6 feet tall, that are very good looking. Those, when they say 95%, that's what they mean. Okay. When reality, they don't always want men approaching. This happened to me the other night. I was at a wrestling tournament all day Friday from 8 in the morning to almost 9 at night. And so the next day I got a good night's sleep. My wife was tired. And then my friend Walter calls me out of the blue and says, hey, it's a trash disco night at Numbers at this nightclub we'd like to go to. Do you want to go? And I said, sure. So I went out there. I'm out at the club. I'm dressed well, wearing my new Cayman boots, one of my nicest shirts. And I'm sitting there, and there's a garbage can right next to where I was sitting. And this beautiful gal comes up to the garbage can, and she starts throwing up. And so at first I'm not looking at her because she's throwing up. It was a bit of a weird situation. But then I did look at her. She looked over at me, and I stood up and I said, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I shouldn't drink. And I'm like, well, here, have some water. And so it was dark. She couldn't really see my face. And I gave her some water, and I started talking to her. Then I moved over to a different place into the light. And that is when she could see clearly that I was very, very much older than her. And I did not meet that minimum level of attraction. Okay. This girl was beautiful, maybe 22, 23 years old. I'm nearly 63. We have that saying, oh, I'm old enough to be your father, but actually I'm almost old enough to be your grandfather. So as soon as she saw me, it became obvious that I did not meet the minimum level of attraction for her. But the interaction still was successful. So I gave her the water. She's like, oh, thank you. And she started getting nervous, and I knew exactly what was going on. I immediately assessed the situation, and I told her, hey, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I realize I'm old enough to be your father. I'm not hitting on you. So, just understand that's not what's happening here. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. She immediately relaxed. I stayed confident. I stayed relaxed. I controlled the frame. And then I said to her, just do me a favor. And she said, what? I go, save me a dance later on. And sure enough, an hour later, I ended up dancing with her. So clearly, even though I was not meeting that minimum level of attraction, right? I talked about getting older. I was a fairly good looking man, well into my 50s. Turning 60, beat my face with an ugly stick. So I have an understanding now of both sides of that coin. When I was young, I was very good looking. It was very easy for me to open almost any women. I could open 8s and 9s, no problem. Today I'm older, I'm no longer good looking, and I see the very different reaction that I get now. So I understand that for guys, that we don't always have that minimum level of attraction. In fact, 95% of women don't want us to approach. The reality is it's more like 30% or even lower, but there are a lot of things we can do with that. We can work on ourselves, we can body build, we can improve ourselves physically, and more importantly, we can learn to control frame, to be confident, and to relax. And what this does is it gets the woman to relax. She will become relaxed and comfortable because you are relaxed and comfortable. So that energy will play off itself, and this will greatly increase your odds of success with women. All right, guys. So again, if you would like to hear more about what I'm talking about, please click the like and subscribe button. If you'd like to read my book, it's only $13 on Amazon.com. You can find it in the link below, and happy dating.